Time for another mailbag edition of Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. If you want more of these mailbag episodes that we bring you from time to time here on the program, spam MB in the comments section. And you, too, can be a part of our next mailbag segment. Let us know, and we'll get started with today's show. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us here on Ravens Rundown. Joey Peterson is here with me as well. We put a call out to action on our community page on YouTube for you guys to send us questions, and now it's time to react to them as the Ravens' first preseason game is upon us and training camp about halfway through. Joey, let's get right after it. What's our first question this week?
The first question for this week's mailbag comes from SCDU4SF. I'm not going to try to pronounce that all together. It says, #Ravens, are we seriously going into the season with Josh Johnson and Devin Leary as our backups? Well, SC, it's starting to look that way. I think the hope, and Tyler's talked about this ad nauseum over the past month. The hope was Devin Leary is going to make some big strides, maybe pass Josh Johnson on that depth chart to be the QB2. It doesn't look like he's done that. So it looks like Josh Johnson is still the QB2 as of right now. Devin Leary's backing him up. Of course, you got Emory Jones in that QB4 spot. He's not going to make any moves. But that seems to be the plan right now.
Yeah, and if you recall, if we were to go back in time and take a ride on the hot tub time machine, you may recall that when Todd Monken first took over as offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, that the rumblings were that Monken was not a fan of the backup quarterbacks that the Ravens had previously with Tyler Huntley and Josh Johnson, that his preference was to have more of a pocket traditional passer as his backup QB. They let Huntley walk in free agency. They bring back Josh Johnson. They draft Devin Leary, and Leary is more of that pocket traditional quarterback, but he's had his struggles with accuracy. Now, he's played better. He had a really rough rookie minicamp, but as of late, he's played better, but he's still got a ways to go. And ideally, Joey, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you would like to be in a situation where Leary can win the job, and then you only have to carry two quarterbacks. But I don't see them just letting go of Leary, giving up on him if he doesn't win the QB2 job. It's not a perfect situation, but I think realistically what's going to happen at this point, barring Leary completely outplaying Johnson in the preseason, and if you recall, Johnson looked really good in the preseason last year. Barring that happening, I think the Ravens are likely going to have to use three spots on the active roster and the 53-man roster for these three QBs, with Johnson as the 2 and Leary as the 3.
I think so too, and that's exactly like you said. Nothing you ever want to see happen, but there's not much when you look at free agent quarterbacks that are available right now that this team could add. Ryan Tannehill, he's about the only guy on this list that I would debate signing. I think he could actually be a pretty solid backup. Other than that, you got Trevor Siemian, you got Blaine Gabbert, you got A.J. McCarron, three guys who are more known for what they did in college than what they've done in the NFL, if we're being honest. And so you don't have much of an option. At this point, you see what happens in preseason. You see if Devin Leary can make some waves. You see if Josh Johnson can make some waves. And it looks like you're probably going to have to go in the season with three quarterbacks on this roster.
So let's ask you guys now, do the Ravens need to sign a backup QB? It's our pinned comment today. Let us know what you think. Y for yes, N for no. You know, I would lean towards yes and finding a better option out there than what you have right now, but what do you guys think? Weigh in, let us know. Next question in the mailbag this week, Joey, comes from RSH Jr. What do we have here?
RSH Jr. is asking, will the #Ravens and Lamar run more plays from under center when Derrick Henry is in the game? That's when Henry has his best runs. This is a great question. One of my favorite questions that we got all of yesterday, because it's really interesting to look at what this team did last year. If you look at their 2023 total snaps, 4% of them were taken under center and 96% from shotgun. That 4% under center was the least in the entire NFL. And so I think there will be a bit of an uptick when you have a running back like Derrick Henry in the backfield. But I don't think that's necessarily the smartest thing to add a ton more of that when you're just taking away your quarterback's biggest strength, which is his ability to run the ball as well.
Well, here's what I look at. Here's one point I would say of why I think that number is going to go up, but not a huge jump up necessarily. You go back and look at Todd Monken's offense at the University of Georgia when he won the national championships with Stetson Bennett and company and all that. And for an offense that was a multiple scheme that spread you out a lot, they still lined things up under center and played smash mouth football. And they had a nice balance of mixing things up. Remember, Kenny McIntosh was in that backfield. With Stetson Bennett there and company, they did a good job of finding a happy medium in that college offense. And even going back further than that, Monken has always been a spread-you-out type of guy. So I think that we'll see a tad bit more because of that strength for Derrick Henry. And they do want Lamar to run less, but I don't think it's going to be a huge change in the offense, if you will.
If you had to guess, would you say it goes up to like 10%? Maybe 12?
10, 12%. I don't think it's going to be something like 60-40 by any stretch. But I think that to work with Derrick Henry, to get the most out of what you can with Patrick Ricard as a fullback there, it would be smart to at least have more of those snaps under center to make this offense more versatile, have more options there.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think when you go and look at it at the end of the day, part of why this offense is so successful with running the football is because defenses has to plan on Lamar Jackson keeping the ball and running it himself. And so when you're going from under center, that kind of eliminates that whole process, and they can zone in on Derrick Henry.
Sure.
And defenses have tried to zone in on Derrick Henry in his career before, and it hasn't necessarily worked out. And so to answer the question, yes, I do think we'll see a little bit more of under center with Derrick Henry being added, but I don't think it will be a ton more.
Let's ask you now, over-under 1,150 yards for Derrick Henry in 2024. What do you guys think? I would love for it to be over. I lean towards over, but we shall see. Over, you for under. Weigh in. Let us know in the comments section. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time, the place to go for last-minute tickets, the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater productions, and more. Maybe you want to go to a Ravens preseason game, or you want to go to a Baltimore Orioles game. Plenty of events to choose from. You choose the event. They got the prices listed. Then you select your seat, see if you like that seat or not, get the visual. And then you're checking out on Game Time with all major credit card providers, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo. And, folks, we got a great deal that we're offering for you. If you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports, you will get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Joey, what's next?
KC Budden, beautiful family you got there, KC. What players will be what number of option for Lamar? Like, who will be his first option and who will be his last option? This is an interesting question because I think it's one that can change as the season goes on, depending how something goes. But when you look at it just to begin this season, you got to go Mark Andrews number 1, Zay Flowers number 2, Rashad Bateman, number 3. I think Isaiah likely moves into that number 4 spot after what he proved when Mark Andrews went down last season. And then Nelson Aguilar is ending it with that number 5 spot. But I think Mark Andrews still definitely that number 1 option. Him and Lamar have played so many seasons. They have so much trust together. He's the Travis Kelce to his Patrick Mahomes. Mark Andrews will be the number 1 option until Zay Flowers proves that he can be the number 1 option, what I could see happening late this season, maybe next season.
Well, and it all comes down to trust, right? Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson, they're like peanut butter and jelly. I mean, there is an established trust there that's gone on for many years where there's that comfort zone that they've had there. They've known each other so well and been such a great tandem. That's going to continue. Zay Flowers, That's only going to grow, and we've seen them on the same page. Meanwhile, Rashad Bateman, that's one that the Ravens need to see more of. Lamar hasn't been able to trust Rashad Bateman in his early stretch of his career to this point, but being the number 2 receiver, they're going to have to figure it out here pretty quick. Isaiah Likely, we saw that trust really grow when he stepped in for Mark Andrews and did a really good job of that last year, but trying to figure out how to work him and Andrews on the field together, that's going to be up to Todd Monken to figure out. And then that final spot, Aguilar was pretty solid last year. I think that as the season goes along, too, Russell Gage is going to be a part of this conversation as well. He might pass up Nelson Aguilar potentially. I don't think it's going to be immediate, but I do think you're going to see Russell Gage play a significant role in this offense, too.
I was going to say that exact same thing. I think Russell Gage would be in that number 6 spot, maybe number 7 just because he's only been on the team for, 24 hours, 48 hours at this point? I think it's so interesting to look at Nelson Aguilar because you haven't heard his name a ton in camp, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a great thing either. I think he's sitting squarely at the number 5 spot, and he's gotten a year with Lamar Jackson at this point, so they've built a good amount of trust. But I think if Russell Gage has a really good training camp right before the season, has a good couple of preseason games, he could, after 2 or 3 weeks in the season, possibly make his way into this top 5. But I think number 1, number 2 are going to stay there the entire season long. Mark Andrews, Zay Flower. I wouldn't be surprised to see possibly Isaiah Likely move up to that number 3 spot, just with how good of a camp we've seen him having.
Yeah, maybe so. Who do you think is Lamar Jackson's number 1 option on this Ravens team here in 2024? We've gone over our list. Now we want to hear from you guys. Weigh in, let us know what you think. Last question in the mailbag this week. Jarmo, 6355, checks in here. Joey, what do we got now?
Hashtag Ravens. Any trades before the season? I'm not sure. I would lean probably towards no. I think that with what they've got right now, I think they're at the point where they're saying, okay, we like the foundation we have. We like the team that we have right now. Let's roll into this season. We're excited with what we got, and let's see what we can do. Now, I wouldn't rule us out for any trades at all during the season. I think we will likely make a move when that trade deadline's coming around. But if I had to see and list out any likely candidates for trades for the season, I got to start number 1 with Matthew Judon, number 2, Jonathan Allen, and number 3, Trey Lance. And I think this addresses kind of some of the weaknesses of this team, right? That edge rusher, who's going to make up for Jadeveon Clowney? Jonathan Allen, he can get to the passer as well. He's so solid on a defensive line.
Would be a nice compliment to Matabike, and then you can't double-team Matabike if you got Allen there.
Exactly.
He would be a little pricey on the trade market, though.
He would, but he's had such a solid career, and I think he's been having trade rumors surrounded by him in the past couple of months. And then going back to that first question, possibly Trey Lance.
Yeah, and Trey Lance, I think, would be a nice fit to be your backup quarterback. And although it wouldn't necessarily be what Todd Monken is looking for, he would be the most similar to Lamar's game among your backup quarterbacks. And you would get a guy that, he was a former top 5 pick. Obviously, there's some talent there. He'd be the most talented quarterback of your quarterback room there. But I'm with you, Joey. I'm looking at this. I think the Ravens are going to kind of see what they got, where they're at to begin this season, and reevaluate things when they come to the trade deadline and say to themselves, all right, is this good enough to take us where we want to go, or do we want to make one more move? I think that signing of Russell Gage was kind of the last big move for the Ravens before they kind of go all in for the rest of the ride here.
I think so as well. And you got to look at it with trades. You got to give up something to get something. And I don't know if the Ravens are so needing to get something. I don't think they're willing to give up as much for what they need, because I don't think they need a ton to make a deep run in this playoffs. We'll see when the season gets going. We're 8 games into this thing, 9, 10 games into this thing. But as of right now, I would rule out any trades before the season starts.
Who's a player you want the Ravens to trade for before the season starts? We've already gone over a few names. Want to hear from you guys. Weigh in. Let us know what you think. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Ravens Rundown. Subscribe now for continuing Ravens coverage. Got a watch party coming up Friday night. We will see you then. He's Joey Peterson. I'm Tyler Jones. We'll see you next time.